The sun had not fully risen over Chicago, Illinois, when 29-year-old Ethan Miller stepped out of his apartment building. The city was waking up, cars humming in the distance, a train rumbling overhead, the cold morning air brushing against his cheeks. Yet, despite the busy world around him, Ethan felt empty, like he was watching life happen, not living it. Every day felt the same: wake up, go to work, come home tired, sleep, repeat. Ethan worked long hours at a delivery company. The job paid the bills, but it offered nothing more. No excitement. No passion. No future he could imagine. He often told himself, "I'll change my life one day," but that day never came. One morning, as he walked toward the bus station, something happened that he did not expect. A woman in her late 50s, wearing a bright red coat and holding a cup of hot coffee, stood at the corner waiting to cross the street. Suddenly, she dropped a small notebook from her bag. People walked past her without noticing, but Ethan stopped. "Excuse me," he called out, picking up the notebook. "You dropped this." The woman turned, surprised. "Oh. Thank you, young man," she said warmly. "I would have lost all my ideas." Ethan smiled softly. "Ideas for what?" She laughed. "For my book. I'm writing about how small decisions can change your entire life." Those words hit Ethan harder than he expected. She looked at him closely, as if she could see something behind his tired eyes. "You look like someone standing at the edge of a choice," she said. "A big one." Ethan felt a strange chill. "What makes you say that?" "Because I've been there," she replied. "I wasted years waiting for life to change on its own." "But life doesn't change until you do." Before Ethan could respond, the bus arrived. The woman stepped forward, then turned back and added, "Start with one small step. That's all it takes." She got on the bus and disappeared into the crowd. Ethan stayed where he was, holding his breath. Those words echoed in his mind like a message meant for him. For the first time in a long time, he wondered, what if I really could change my life? That simple question would lead him into a journey he never expected, a journey that would transform everything. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the woman in the red coat. Her words followed him the entire day like a quiet echo. Start with one small step. But which step? Toward what? At work, Ethan moved boxes, scanned packages, and walked back and forth across the warehouse floor. His co-workers joked around, complained about the shift, or counted the minutes until lunch. Ethan usually did the same. But today, he felt different, restless, alert, almost uncomfortable inside his own skin. During lunch break, he sat alone at a metal table in the employee break room. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly above him. The noise of forklifts, beeping machines, and rolling carts filled the air. Ethan opened his lunchbox mechanically, but he barely tasted anything. He kept replaying the morning, the notebook, the woman's calm voice, her message about life not changing until he did. Ethan whispered to himself, "Maybe she's right. Maybe I've been waiting too long." When his shift ended, Ethan didn't go straight home. Instead, he took a longer route, walking through the quiet streets near the river. The chilly Chicago wind blew against his jacket, but his mind was warm with thoughts. Eventually, he stopped on a small pedestrian bridge overlooking the water. The city lights reflected on the surface like scattered stars. A runner jogged past him, a couple walked a dog, and a street musician played a slow tune nearby. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to think honestly about his life. He realized something painful: he had stopped dreaming. He used to want things, big things. To study photography. To travel. To create something meaningful. But every time he tried, fear whispered, "You're not good enough. You're too late. You'll fail." So he did nothing, and nothing had changed. Ethan leaned on the railing, watching the water move under the bridge. "What small step can I even take?" he wondered aloud. Just then, his phone buzzed. A message from his childhood friend, Lucas, popped up. "Hey man, haven't seen you in months. Want to grab dinner tonight?" "My treat." Ethan hesitated. Part of him wanted to say no, like always. He usually avoided plans, avoided conversations, avoided anything that wasn't comfortable, but then he remembered the woman's words. One small step. Ethan took a deep breath and typed, "Yeah. I'm in. Where should we meet?" It was just dinner, just one simple decision, but as he pressed send, he felt something stir inside him, a small spark of courage. A tiny shift. A beginning. Ethan didn't know it yet, but saying yes tonight would become the first link in a chain of events that would transform his entire life, and the change had already begun. Ethan arrived at Garcia's Grill, a small Mexican restaurant on the north side of Chicago. The place was warm, lively, and smelled like fresh tortillas and grilled peppers. He hadn't been there in almost a year. When he walked in, he immediately spotted Lucas sitting at a booth near the window, waving at him with a big smile. "Ethan. Man, look at you," Lucas said as they hugged. "It's been forever." "Yeah, too long," Ethan replied, sliding into the seat across from him. Lucas had always been outgoing, loud laugh, confident energy, the kind of person who made friends everywhere. Ethan admired that, even envied it sometimes. They ordered food, and for a few minutes, they talked about simple things, work, weather, random memories from high school. But Lucas wasn't fooled. He looked at Ethan with concern. "Okay," he said, leaning forward. "Why do you look like someone who hasn't slept in a month?" Ethan let out a tired laugh. "Do I look that bad?" "You look lost," Lucas said gently. "What's going on?" For a moment, Ethan wanted to say nothing. That was his usual answer, safe, easy, clean. But tonight felt different. Tonight, he had promised himself honesty. So he took a breath. "I'm stuck," Ethan admitted. "I feel like my life is going nowhere. I wake up tired, I go to work, I come home even more tired, and it's like I'm living the same day over and over." Lucas nodded slowly, not interrupting. "And the worst part," Ethan continued, "I know I need to change. I just don't know how." Lucas tapped his fingers on the table, thinking, "Do you remember when you used to carry that old camera everywhere?" Ethan blinked. "My photography?" "Yeah. Dude, you were obsessed with taking pictures. You saw the world in your own way. You were alive." Ethan felt a strange pressure in his chest. He had not even touched a camera in 5 years. What happened to that guy? Lucas asked softly. "I don't know," Ethan whispered. "I guess life happened." Lucas leaned back, crossing his arms. "Now, life doesn't just happen. We let it take over. You stop doing things that made you you." Their food arrived, steaming plates of chicken fajitas and warm tortillas. But Ethan barely noticed. Lucas continued, "Look, man. One small step. That's all it takes." Ethan froze. Those exact words again. Lucas didn't know about the woman at the bus stop. Yet here he was, repeating the same message. "Maybe your step," Lucas said, "is picking up a camera again. Nothing big. Just one photo a day. Start small." Ethan swallowed hard. Something inside him shifted again, like someone had opened a door just a little wider. "But what if I'm not good anymore?" Ethan asked quietly. Lucas grinned. "Then you'll get good again. You only fail if you don't start." For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt hope. Real, warm hope. When they finished eating, Lucas stood up and said, "Come on. Let's go to your place. I want to see if you still have that camera." Ethan laughed nervously. "Right now." "Right now," Lucas said. "Small steps, remember." And just like that, the two friends walked out into the cool Chicago night, unaware that this simple decision, this tiny step, was about to open a path Ethan never imagined. Ethan's apartment was small, a worn-out couch, a coffee table with scratches, and a single framed poster on the wall. He hadn't cleaned much lately, and he suddenly felt embarrassed as Lucas walked in. "Hey, it's better than my first place," Lucas joked, kicking off his shoes. "At least your couch doesn't sink in the middle." Ethan managed a smile, but his heart was pounding. He knew what Lucas came for, the camera. He walked to his bedroom closet, opened the door, and pulled out an old cardboard box. Dust rose into the air. The box felt heavier than he remembered, like it carried years of forgotten dreams. He brought it to the living room and set it on the table. Lucas whistled. "Man, that box looks ancient. Did you hide treasure in there?" Ethan didn't answer. His hands were shaking slightly as he lifted the lid. Inside lay his old Nikon DSLR, wrapped in a faded cloth. The moment he touched it, a flood of memories rushed into him: sunset photos by the lake, portraits of strangers on the street, little adventures he used to take with nothing but a backpack and excitement. Lucas picked it up gently. Still looks good. Does it even turn on? Ethan hesitated, then reached for the power button. Click. The screen lit up. Both of them laughed, relieved, surprised, almost emotional. Lucas handed it back to him. There you go. Step 1. Remember how it feels. Ethan held the camera close. It felt right, familiar, like shaking hands with an old friend, but then the doubt came rushing back. I don't know, man, Ethan said quietly. What if I don't know what to take pictures of anymore? Lucas shrugged. Then you take pictures of whatever you see. Your room. Your street. Your shoes. I don't care. The point isn't perfection. It's movement. Movement, the word echoed in Ethan's mind. Before he could respond, Lucas looked at his watch. All right, I gotta head home. Early meeting tomorrow. But promise me something. What? That you'll take one picture tonight. Just one. Doesn't matter of what. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay. I promise. Lucas smiled, clapped him on the shoulder, and grabbed his jacket. You're not stuck, Ethan. You're just paused. And tonight, you pressed play. When the door closed behind Lucas, the apartment felt silent, almost too silent. Ethan stood in the middle of the room holding the camera, unsure what to photograph. After a few minutes, he walked to the window and looked outside. The city lights reflected on a wet sidewalk. A man was walking his dog. Cars passed. A neon sign blinked across the street. Nothing special, nothing dramatic, but maybe that was okay. Ethan lifted the camera, focused, adjusted the settings. Slowly, carefully, his fingers remembered things his mind had forgotten. Click. The shutter sound filled the room like music. Ethan looked at the picture on the screen. It wasn't perfect. The lighting was off. The angle was basic, but it was his first step. A small step, and something cracked open inside him, something warm and hopeful. He took another picture, then one more. Soon, he was walking around his apartment, capturing shadows, lights, shapes, little details he had never paid attention to. It was midnight when he finally sat down and reviewed the photos. They weren't amazing, but they were real. Honest, Ethan whispered to himself, I can do this. I can really change. He didn't know it yet, but these quiet midnight photos would lead him into opportunities that would completely transform his future. His journey had officially begun. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling something unusual. Motivation. A quiet, gentle motivation, but real. The kind he hadn't felt in years. He looked at the camera on his desk. It almost felt like it was waiting for him. He got ready for work, grabbed the camera gently, and slipped it into his backpack. Just having it with him made the morning feel different. At work, the warehouse was busy as usual, forklifts running back and forth, loud beeping sounds, boxes stacked from floor to ceiling. Ethan moved through his shift quietly, but his mind was awake today. During his break, he stepped outside by the loading docks. The sky was finally clear after days of grey weather. Sunlight hit the metal rails and created long shadows on the ground. Ethan raised his camera, clicked. A simple shadow photo, nothing special, but it made him feel alive. One of his co-workers, Marcus, walked up to him with a Coke in his hand. What you doing, man? Since when you take pictures? Ethan hesitated. Just started again. Marcus nodded, impressed. Nice. Feels good doing something for yourself, huh? Ethan smiled. Yeah. It does. Marcus shrugged playfully. Hey, if you become famous, remember us little people. Ethan laughed, but inside, the idea of photography meaning something again felt unbelievable and exciting. After work, instead of going straight home, Ethan took a detour to Milton Park, a quiet neighborhood park with old trees and curved walking paths. He used to come here often years ago, camera in hand, always searching for interesting shots. As he walked through the park, he saw a little girl feeding pigeons. An elderly couple holding hands on a bench. A teenager skateboarding near the fountain, sunlight filtering through the yellow autumn leaves. It was all ordinary, but somehow, it felt magical today. Ethan lifted his camera and started capturing moments, small, simple, Human moments, click the pigeons in the sunlight, click the old couple smiling silently at each other, click. A dog jumping to catch a frisbee. Every sound of the shutter felt like a heartbeat, pulling him deeper back into the world he had abandoned. An unexpected encounter. As Ethan reviewed his photos, someone approached him from behind. Those are some nice shots. Ethan turned around. A young woman stood there, maybe around his age. She wore a denim jacket, had curly brown hair, and carried a camera of her own, a Canon mirrorless. She nodded toward his Nikon, old model, but still a classic. Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, it's been sitting in my closet for years." "You shoot professionally?" she asked. "Oh, no. Just starting again." The woman smiled warmly. "Well, you've got a good eye." "I'm Ava, by the way." "I'm Ethan." Ava pointed at one of his photos, the old couple on the bench. "This one is beautiful. You captured something real." Ethan felt a flush of pride he hadn't felt in a long time. "Thanks. I didn't think it was anything special." "That's the thing," Ava said. "The best photos usually aren't planned. They just happen." They talked for a few minutes, about cameras, lighting, Chicago weather, the usual small talk that didn't feel so small. Before leaving, Ava said, "You should post your photos somewhere. People would love them." Ethan shook his head quickly. "I'm not ready for that." "Not ready is fine," she said. "But don't hide your gift forever." She gave him a polite nod and walked away, the sound of her steps fading into the park. Ethan stood there, her words echoing inside him. A gift, talent, him, for the first time in his life, someone outside his family or Lucas had complimented his photography. It meant something more than he expected. The feeling of change. As he walked home, Ethan looked at the photos on his camera again. They weren't perfect, but they were alive. He realized something: change doesn't start big. It starts with a moment. A choice. A feeling. And today, he had all three. By the time he reached his apartment, Ethan whispered the same words he once thought he'd never say again: "I'm actually becoming myself again." What he didn't know was that tomorrow would bring an opportunity he could never have imagined, one that would push his life forward in a way he wasn't ready for, but absolutely needed. The next morning, Ethan woke before his alarm. He lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling something unusual: excitement. For once, he wasn't dreading the day. He was curious about it. He got dressed, grabbed his backpack, and once again slipped the camera inside. It was becoming a habit now, one he didn't want to break. A surprise at work. When he arrived at the warehouse, he immediately sensed something was different. People were gathered around the bulletin board, talking quietly. Marcus waved him over. "Oh bro, check this out." Ethan leaned in and saw a colorful flyer pinned to the board: a community photo exhibit, Chicago neighborhood story. Submit your photos for a chance to be featured. A theme: everyday moments. Deadline: 2 weeks. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. Marcus nudged him. "You should enter. This is literally your thing." "No way," Ethan said quickly. "I'm not good enough for that." "Dude, your pictures from yesterday were awesome." Ethan shook his head. "They were okay. Not exhibit level." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you say you wanted to change your life?" Ethan froze. Yes. He did say that. He had been repeating it for weeks, silently and out loud, and yet here he was, automatically saying no. Marcus crossed his arms. "Look, man. No pressure. But sometimes opportunities show up exactly when you need them." Ethan swallowed hard. He wasn't sure if he believed in signs, but this felt close to one. Still, fear whispered the same old lines: "You'll embarrass yourself. You're not good enough. You'll fail." But now, new words appeared too, quieter but stronger: "Maybe this is your small step." After work, a big decision. When Ethan left his shift, instead of going straight home, he headed back to Milton Park. His mind was racing with thoughts, doubts, hopes. The park was lively today, kids playing, seniors chatting, joggers passing by. The air was cool but fresh. Ethan walked slowly, camera in hand. Everywhere he looked, he saw moments: a father tying his son's shoelaces. A girl blowing bubbles into the wind. A street artist spray painting colorful birds on a wall. Sunlight reflecting off a fountain. He raised his camera. Click, click, click. Each photo felt like a tiny victory. He sat down on a bench and scrolled through them. Some were blurry. Some were ordinary. but a few had something special. He didn't know what it was: light, emotion, timing, but those photos made him stop and stare. The thought came again: what if I submitted one, just one photo? No expectations, no pressure, just a step. But then, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Ava returns back at it again, Ava said with a smile as she walked over. Ethan looked up, surprised but glad to see her. Yeah. I guess I'm trying to stay consistent. Ava peeked at his camera screen. These are actually really good, Ethan. He rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know. I'm still rusty. Rusty is fine, she said. Rusty means you're working. Then she pointed at the flyer sticking out of his backpack. Oh. You're thinking of entering the exhibit? Ethan's eyes widened. How did you? Ava laughed. I saw that flyer last week. I'm entering too. You are? Of course. It's a community exhibit. It's not about being perfect, it's about sharing stories. Real stories. Ethan stared at her. I'm scared to submit something. Ava sat beside him and said gently, everyone is scared. But fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that something matters. Those words hit deep. She stood up. Tell you what. If you submit a photo, I'll submit mine the same day. Deal. Ethan looked at her, kind eyes, confident smile, someone who believed in him for no reason other than she saw something in him. He took a long breath. Deal. Ava grinned. Good. Now go take more photos. You've got a story to tell. She waved and walked away, camera bouncing at her side. Ethan sat there, stunned, but inspired. He looked at the fountain again, lifted his camera, and captured the exact moment sunlight hit the water perfectly. Click. That photo felt different, stronger, alive. He didn't know it yet, but this single picture would soon change everything. For the next few days, Ethan carried his camera everywhere, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He noticed things he had never paid attention to before: the colors of the morning sky, reflections on sidewalks after rain, strangers laughing together, small stories happening around him every minute, and he captured them. One by one. His camera was no longer just an object. It was becoming a piece of his identity again. 1 week later, a difficult evening. It was Friday night, and Ethan sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open. A cup of cold coffee sat next to him. He had the community exhibit website pulled up. Submit your photo, the button said. Simple, impossible. He had taken nearly 300 photos in the past week. 30 of them were good. 3 of them were great, but each time he hovered the mouse over the submit button, fear whispered, what if nobody likes it? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you're not good enough? What if you're wasting your time? He pushed the laptop away and rubbed his face with both hands. This is stupid, he muttered. Why am I even doing this? He stood up and paced the small living room. He felt the old version of himself, the scared, quiet, stuck version, pulling him back. He hated that feeling. Right then, his phone buzzed. A message from Ava. Did you submit your photo yet? Smiling face. Ethan stared at the screen. His heartbeat quickened. She hadn't forgotten the deal. He typed back slowly, or not yet. I'm struggling to choose one. A few seconds later, she replied, want to meet tomorrow? I can help you pick one if you want. Ethan felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. Sure. What time? 2 p.m. Milton Park. Perfect. He placed his phone down and took a deep breath. Maybe he didn't have to do this alone. Saturday, meeting with Ava the next afternoon. Ethan arrived at Milton Park early. The sun was bright, but a cool breeze softened the air. Families were out, kids ran around, and a street musician played guitar near the fountain. Ava arrived right on time, camera bag over her shoulder. All right, she said, clapping her hands lightly. Show me what you've got. They sat on a bench, and Ethan pulled up his favorite photos on the camera screen. Ava leaned closer, studying each one carefully. You've improved a lot, she said. These feel honest. Ethan felt heat rise in his cheeks. Thanks. I'm trying. She pointed to the picture he captured earlier that week, the sunlight hitting the fountain just right. This one, she said softly. There's something special here. Ethan swallowed. You really think so? I know so, Ava said. It feels peaceful and alive at the same time. That's rare. She turned to him. You should submit this one. Ethan stared at the image, a simple moment that suddenly meant so much. He nodded slowly. Okay. And for the first time, he believed in his own work a little. A powerful conversation. They walked through the park for a while, talking about photography, life, mistakes, and dreams. At one point, Ethan asked, "How did you get into photography?" Ava smiled sadly. "Honestly? I needed something to help me feel again." Ethan looked at her, surprised. She continued softly, "A few years ago, I went through something really hard. I felt lost. Empty. Photography helped me pay attention to life again. To see beauty when I thought everything was dark." Ethan understood her in that moment more than she knew. "You get why it matters," she said. "That's why your photos have meaning. Because you're not just taking pictures, you're trying to find yourself." Ethan felt something warm spread in his chest. Someone finally understood him. The decision. They returned to the bench, and with Ava sitting beside him, Ethan opened the exhibit website again on his phone. She nudged him gently. "Go on." He uploaded the fountain photo, entered his name, typed a short description, took a long breath. His thumb hovered over the button Submit. Ava whispered, "You've got this." And for the first time in his adult life, Ethan didn't let fear decide for him. He pressed the button, submission successful. Ethan leaned back on the bench, exhaling deeply, almost shaking. Ava smiled brightly. "See? You did it." Ethan closed his eyes for a second, letting the moment sink in. He had just taken the biggest step of his new life. He didn't know what would happen next, but he finally felt brave enough to find out. Jake's journey was moving forward, but one thing still followed him everywhere. Fear. It showed up in small moments, in sudden doubts, in the quiet hours before dawn when everything feels too heavy to carry. One Thursday evening, after a long day at work, Jake sat at his kitchen table, staring at the small notebook where he wrote his goals. He should have felt proud. He was improving. His confidence was growing, his habits were stronger, and his life was shifting in a better direction. But that night, he felt something different. Fear that everything might fall apart, fear that he wasn't good enough, fear that he was pretending. He sighed and closed the notebook. He grabbed his jacket and walked outside. The air was cool, and the quiet streets helped him think. He walked toward a small park near his apartment, a place he used to avoid when he felt stressed. But tonight, he sat on one of the wooden benches and let the silence surround him. For the first time in months, his mind whispered, "What if you fail? What if nothing truly changes?" Jake leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the ground. He felt the weight of his own expectations pressing against him. At that moment, an older man with a silver beard passed by walking his dog. The dog, a small golden retriever, stopped in front of Jake and looked at him with warm, curious eyes. The man smiled. "Rough day?" Jake nodded, just thinking. The man sat on the far end of the bench. "You know," he said, "thinking is good. But thinking too much, that's where trouble begins." Jake gave a small laugh. "Yeah. I guess I'm overthinking everything." The man nodded. "People believe fear comes to stop us. But sometimes fear comes to guide us. It tells us where we need to grow next." Jake looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" The man gently tugged the dog's leash. "Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a direction sign. Whatever scares you, that's exactly where you should go next." Before Jake could reply, the man stood up. "Take care, son. And don't be afraid of being afraid." Jake watched the man walk away, the dog trotting beside him. His mind repeated that one sentence: fear isn't a stop sign. It's a direction sign. Jake sat quietly, letting those words sink in. Maybe fear wasn't his enemy, maybe it was the next step he needed to take. He took a deep breath and stood up. He felt strangely lighter, not because the fear was gone, but because he finally understood it. The next morning, Jake woke up with a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in years. The conversation with the old man replayed in his mind like a message he wasn't supposed to ignore. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a direction sign. He stood by the window, watching the early light spill across the street, and made a decision today. He would finally face something he had been avoiding for months, his dream. Jake had always wanted to start a small online coaching page to help people who struggled the way he once did. He wanted to talk about mindset, habits, and personal change. but every time he thought about posting his first video, fear stopped him, fear of judgment, fear of looking stupid, fear that no one would care. But now, he understood something new. The fear meant it mattered. It meant he had to try it. Jake set up his phone on the kitchen counter. His hands were shaking, but he pressed record anyway. "Hey," he said, his voice a little nervous. "My name's Jake, and I want to share something that helped me change my life." He paused, his heart raced, but he didn't stop. He talked for 2 minutes, simple, honest, real. When he finished, he clicked pause and stared at the screen. The old Jake would have deleted the video, but this version, the one trying to face fear instead of running from it, took a deep breath and hit upload. His stomach dropped, but then, strangely, he smiled. He had done it for the first time in a long time. He felt proud. It work. During lunch, his phone buzzed. He hesitated before checking it. 14 likes. 3 comments. 2 shares. Jake's eyes widened. 1 comment read, "Thank you. I really needed to hear this today." Another said, "Please make more videos. You explain things so simply." Jake put his phone down, speechless. He had been so afraid of being judged that he never imagined he might actually help someone. That evening, he went back to the park. The bench was empty. The old man wasn't there, but Jake wished he was. He whispered into the quiet air, "You were right. Fear really was the direction." Jake sat back and closed his eyes for the first time. He wasn't thinking about failing. He was thinking about showing up, every day, even when it was hard, even when he wasn't confident. He realized something important. Your life changes the moment you start showing up for yourself, especially on the days when you don't feel ready. Jake walked home with a calm, steady confidence. A new chapter had begun, and he wasn't going to run anymore. A month passed, and Jake's life looked, and felt, completely different. Not perfect, not magical, just real. He still woke up early, even on days he felt tired. He still exercised, even when he didn't want to. He still faced fear, even when it tried to creep back in. But the biggest change, he kept showing up. One Saturday morning, Jake walked into a local community center where small workshops were held every week. A friend had invited him to speak, nothing big, just a small group of 10 people who wanted to improve their daily habits. Jake stood near the entrance, heart pounding, palms sweaty. Even after all his progress, stage fright still tried to stop him. Then he remembered the old man's words, "Fear isn't a stop sign." He took a slow breath and stepped inside. The room was simple, plastic chairs, a whiteboard, a pot of coffee in the corner. People looked up as he entered, smiling, waiting, trusting him. Jake adjusted the mic with shaking hands. "Hi everyone," he said. "My name is Jake, and today I want to talk about how small changes can completely transform your life." He expected his voice to crack. It didn't. He expected his mind to go blank. It didn't. Instead, something surprising happened. He talked smoothly, naturally, honestly. He shared his own story, his struggles, his fears, his habits, and the moment he decided to change. He saw nods. He saw eyes soften in understanding. He saw people actually listening, and in that moment, Jake realized something powerful. The version of you that you dream of becoming is already inside you. It just needs you to choose it every day. After the workshop, one woman came up to him. "Your story gave me hope," she said softly. "I thought it was too late for me. But now, I feel like I can start again." Jake smiled. "That's exactly how I felt once. And trust me, it's never too late." On his walk home, sunlight warmed his face. He passed the small park bench where he first heard the sentence that changed everything. He stopped, touched the back of the bench, and whispered, "Oh, thank you." Not just to the old man, but to himself. The version of Jake who decided to try, even when life felt too heavy. That night, Jake sat at his desk and opened his notebook. He wrote one final message, something he wished someone had told him years ago. Your life doesn't change in one moment. It changes in the small decisions you make every day. Show up, start small. Be afraid, but do it anyway. He closed the notebook with a peaceful smile. Jake hadn't become a different person. He had simply uncovered the person he always could have been, and for the first time in his life, everything finally made sense.